Hello, listeners. I'm Tim Stradamus, and it's Hump Day. And with me, as always, is my talented and beautiful co-hostess, Voice.
Good morning, Tim Stradamus, and welcome all listeners to Hump Day, where when the going gets tough, the tough take a nap.
Yeah, naps are nice.
They are. But before we take a nap, I have some amazing news.
Okay.
We got some fan art.
Oh, yeah, we do.
It's amazing.
It's fantastic.
I love it. I think your vision, so superb.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was very cool. Voice freaked out when she saw it on our Instagram.
I did. I essentially saw, because I was like, oh, we got a notice. Somebody tagged us in something. I look at it and I screamed. Tim Stradamus was worried something happened.
Yes.
I came rushing up to him and I shoved my phone in his face. And then he's like, wait, is that what they think I look like? And I was like, yes, you look awesome. Shout out to Jamila.o.gil.
Yes, thank you again so much. It's very cool.
It's amazing.
Voice and I enjoy reading and talking about stories from the internet that are interesting, funny, and dramatic. Because of our love of stories, we've come together and created this channel to share with you those experiences.
And hopefully give you some food for that.
Well, why don't we jump right into the stories while I enjoy my morning cup of brew? What did you craft today?
Oh, so I crafted you something that's refreshing. I put apples, carrots, watermelon, a little bit of sugar, to just spice it up a little, and beetroot.
Oh, man. Yeah. That's a 10 out of 10. No, 5 out of 5. Did it again. That's really good.
You like it?
God, you're killing it.
That's right. I know you love watermelon.
Watermelon is very good.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I had to actually go ahead and sprinkle some sugar on it and then dry the watermelon out because I felt like the watermelon wasn't as sweet as it should have been, but I think it's delicious.
It's fantastic. So are we ready to get into the stories?
Oh, yes. For any listeners wanting to follow along, all story links are in the description below. For our first story. Am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend she'd be a bombshell if she just lost a little weight or worked out?
Oh, we're going to get into the stories this morning.
Am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend she'd be a bombshell if she lost a little bit of weight? I am a pretty fit guy. I enjoy being active, working out, and taking care of myself. When I first met my girlfriend, she was regularly going to the gym a few times a week, and I love that. She's been working 50 to 60 hours a week now and hasn't been to the gym in almost a year. Although she hasn't put on any weight, I can tell that the gym progress is lost. I asked her why she doesn't go to the gym with me or in general anymore, and she says that she's too exhausted and burnt out to go, which I think is just an excuse. She's just about 5'3". Before I met her, she was 165 pounds, and she's about 128 to 130 pounds now. When I was looking to get her clothes for her birthday, I asked her sizes and she said medium on the top. Her pants are a size 8. I feel like a size 8 for somebody 5'3" is bordering unhealthy. She doesn't eat meat and doesn't really have a super healthy diet. She mostly eats like a child, which is fine. It's not like she's eating fast food every day or something, mostly very simple things. I understand everybody holds weight differently, and I love my girlfriend and think she's beautiful, but she's just not toned up, and she asked me if I thought she was overweight. I told her no, but if she went to the gym again and maybe lost 10 pounds, she'd be a bombshell. She took that to the extreme and told me that was offensive and rude. I don't really see how. I would expect the same honesty from her. Am I the a-hole for my honesty?
You're the a-hole for a lot of different things, not just your honesty. This is a spasm to start off Wednesday with. So let's see if we understand the story. OP has an unrealistic expectation of his girlfriend.
Just a bit.
And that makes him a giant wiener jacket.
It does.
Very unhealthy, by the way. By any standard, he's saying that his girlfriend should be 120 pounds always. That's really bad. I don't know where you've gotten your beauty standards or just health standards, but they're wrong. So we'll get started with the story. ROP meets a girl. She's about 160 pounds-ish is what he says when they meet at the beginning.
Correct.
And through their relationship, he doesn't say how long they've been together, have they?
No, he just says that she hasn't been working out for almost a year.
Okay, so that's really the only timeline we have. But
Correct.
Up until then, she went from 160 when they met to about 130.
Correct.
Now, I guess for the next year, either work got busy or she found a new place of employment. but now she's ramping up her work. He says that she's working 50 to 60 hours a week. That's a lot of hours to work.
That's a lot.
I'm not sure if ROP gives what he does, because he disregards her completely and goes, I think that's just an excuse not to go to the gym. Are you serious? What do you do? Fill us in on that. Because if you're working 60 hours a week, find time to do other things. Show me where that's at. It ponders my mind.
I wish I could answer you.
But anyway, he says that throughout the year, she doesn't go to the gym, and he says that she's less toned. And I guess at some point, he goes to buy her clothes, and she tells him her sizes, and he deems it that she's almost bordering unhealthy. At 130 pounds, at 5'3"?
Crazy.
Where do you get off? So I guess at some point during this conversation, she asks him if he thinks she's overweight. He says, no, but I do wish that you would lose 10 pounds and go to the gym more. So you told her no, and then you told her yes. And she has every right to feel a certain way, because you have a very unhealthy view of what your girlfriend should look like. You're allowed to be what you want to be, but what you're not allowed to do is force your perception of what life should look like onto people. You're definitely the a-hole.
Well, let me go ahead and provide the consensus. The consensus says he's definitely the a-hole. Said she's probably feeling not really exactly as good as she wants to. She probably realizes that she hasn't been going to the gym, which is why she asked him, how do I look? Rather than provide all the support he can, he says, if you lose some more weight, then you'd look good. Which I think is honestly pretty disgusting.
Or even just offer how we can get you to be more active, right? Our lives are very busy, but we still find time where we can to go get a jog / quick walk-in.
Her size is a size 8, and that is still pretty small for her size. Even at 5'3", depending on how you're built, I mean, you can still, and I think a lot of people forget about this, you can still be thin, skinny, however it is that you want to label it, and be unhealthy.
Yep.
It doesn't just have to be you being overweight and unhealthy. It goes the other way as well. You need to find that happy medium. And I think when it comes to the perception, especially when you're talking about media perception on what beauty is, they take that to such an extreme. It is unhealthy to be in the extreme one direction or the other. Now, his perception and how I don't think he's truly supporting his girlfriend at all. It's more like he's trying to control her.
Yes. 100%.
By making her feel bad about how she looks.
This is my ideal of you, and this is what you're going to be.
So there were some commenters that actually came out and said that he's not the a-hole. And apparently their reasoning is because he came into this relationship expecting something from her and she's not delivering.
Is that what was talked about then?
There were some people that actually said that.
Well, no. What I'm asking is this what our OP explicitly says in his writing, that they came into this relationship saying that there is going to be, because there are relationships that do exist that way today, where partners tell each other that they expect them to be within a certain amount of weight. So is that what he says later on in his comments, for them to say something like that?
Oh, we'll never know. His account is deleted.
Got it. Okay.
That's
a little ridiculous to assume.
Now, if your gripe is that she's not working out with you, then that would be a finding time for each other sort of feeling.
Sure.
But that's not what he said. He said she should lose 10 pounds and then she'll look attractive.
Yeah.
Which I think is wrong. And for anybody to come across saying that he's not the a-hole and it's because she didn't deliver on something that was promised, nowhere in his post did he say that anything was promised. Yep. He just says that, while she's been working a lot of hours, she stopped working out to compensate for that.
That's a really weird comment to leave on a post. How misinformed are you when that's what you're leaving on this type of thing? Because it says nowhere that there was a promise of anything like that.
It made me upset. You can definitely tell which people were trying to argue the points. I think in the end, when you're talking about supporting someone, it should be that you're fully supporting them. Your perception on what beauty is shouldn't be tagged to your partner in such a way that they have to stay within those beauty standards for you to love them.
Yeah, and if that's the type of love that you're in, I don't know if it's really love so much as you fitting someone's standard within the box that they put you in.
Exactly. And I think that for me becomes the end result that this is
Unhealthy.
very. If anything, I know the perfect way for her to lose a lot of weight.
Drop him.
Exactly.
You definitely need to reassess what you're looking at in your life, buddy.
Well, that relationship seems to be established on rocky foundations. So let us just rewind a little bit and let's go to the dating part of a relationship for our next story. Am I the a-hole for cooking alligator for my date who requested no seafood? I am a 31-year-old guy who is desperately trying to find a wife. I'm passionate about food, and cooking is one of my favorite hobbies. Women claim they want a man who can cook. So usually, if I get to date number 3 or 4 with a woman, I offer to have her come over to my apartment for a home-cooked meal, hoping that I can share one of my interests with her and also impress her in the process. Unfortunately, this strategy hasn't really panned out for some reason because women never seem to be more attracted to me after I cook for them, but I digress. Anyway, I've been on a couple dates with a new woman and asked if she wanted to come over for dinner for our 3rd date, and she said yes, but requested no seafood. My go-to dish in this situation is from scratch crawfish étouffée. But obviously that wasn't an option, so I decided to do blackened alligator, mixed greens, and cornbread. And not to brag, but my food is good. I blacken using the original technique from Paul Prudhomme. Toss the meat in a homemade mix of 9 different spices and then sear and butter over medium to high heat. My greens are a mix of collards, turnips, mustard stewed with ham hocks, onions, garlic, ACV, etc. for maximum flavor, and my cornbread is made from scratch, never from a box. I eat this meal all the time by myself, but I was proud to share it with her. But when I served the food and explained what everything was, she just said, I said no seafood. I said, yeah, that's why I didn't make the crawfish étouffée. I usually do. Then she said that alligator is seafood. I tried to explain that no, it absolutely is not because 1, alligators don't live in the sea/ocean. 2, from a culinary perspective, alligator meat is closest to chicken. 3, Wikipedia specifically defines seafood as fish and shellfish, which alligators are not. Even after I explained this, she said that she still wasn't going to eat it because it was weird. This simultaneously hurt my feelings and pissed me off because it would have been one thing if she tried it and didn't like it, but she refused to even try it. And to make matters worse, I was thinking she would at least eat the greens and cornbread, but no, this woman had the audacity to pull out her phone and open DoorDash. We were planning to watch a movie after dinner, but at this point, I was so aggravated that I said, you know what? I really can't stand picky eaters. I'd rather you just leave. She got offended that I called her a picky eater, as if she's not, but left pretty quickly and hasn't texted me since. Maybe I deserve that. Was I an a-hole in this situation? I'm just so lonely and want a wife so badly that I've endured women who treat me like trash in the past, so it's hard for me to know when I'm being unreasonable versus standing up for myself. Dating is so hard for men. God, I just want someone to hold at night. P.S. If any woman aged 20 to 40 in Pennsylvania or New Jersey is looking for a single man who can cook, I am very available.
All right. Let us buy some meat spill of dating. So let's gather the facts. OP is 31. He really wants a wife.
He is lonely.
He has let us know that these are the reasonings as to why he's in the dating market. He's trying to wife up. Now, he says that he's found someone. They're all going on the 3rd date. And he likes to, in his words, about the 3rd or 4th date, get him over to his house. And then he cooks a meal for him. Because
he wants to show off his culinary skills.
He's like, this is going to seal the deal.
Shink, shink.
She's going to love when I cook. Now he says it though. He's attempted this many times in the past before this new girl. And none of that has ever panned out the way he wanted to.
His exact words is, it has never made me more attractive to them. But I digress.
And that's where something went wrong and he's not seeing it. So he invites her over. She tells him, I guess the only requirement for the dinner was, please don't let it be seafood. Really easy request. Now he defines it in his writing that alligator technically is not seafood. Now, I could also understand from that viewpoint when someone says no seafood, it doesn't swim in the water. Regardless, it's an exotic food. Rule 1 of any host, especially when you're talking about exotic food, you need to ask your guests. That's something that I don't think he did. He doesn't bring it up because she wouldn't have had that reaction had he done that. Because I'm pretty sure the woman that he's on a date with at the time would have gladly told him, hey, alligator isn't something I want to try right now.
Maybe in the future.
And he would have avoided all of that. But it doesn't sound like he cares about what other people's opinions are. He's just doing what he wants. And then the right girl's just going to like what he's doing. You're going to find out that that's not going to go very far. And what's really off-putting about this entire situation is when she gets in and she sees that this is alligator, she doesn't want anything to do with it. She brings out her, I guess, her Grubhub app and then wants to order something else instead. Now, she doesn't outright leave, but they do talk, and I guess he gets very upset about the fact that she doesn't want to just eat this exotic food. If it was me, I probably would have tried it because that's just the type of person I am.
Yeah, same here. I would have given it a go, but I would have been honest and said, look, I've never tried alligator before, but I might just order something different if this doesn't agree with me.
I can totally understand where that has to exist in the conversation. Where if someone goes, hey, I'd rather not, then you allow them to have that and just go, you know what? I goofed up. Maybe next time I can cook you something different. But you have to give them the ability to choose for themselves. You can't then go, well, you know what? Just because you didn't want what I cooked, I went out of my way to do this and now you're acting like this.
He took her comment of her saying that that's weird because it is weird. From our Redditors in the comment section, they said New York and New Jersey, it is not common to get alligator meat and cook it there.
And that's the difference between, I grew up in the South. There's alligator there. That's maybe where I've come at it with my mind where I go, you know what? It's not that exotic, but I can also understand they're up north.
I'm from the West Coast.
They don't do alligator as much.
I've never ever heard of eating alligator until I met you.
I understand that maybe he's looking at it going, maybe this is exotic and she might like this because it's different, but that's not how a lot of people do food. Because you're not talking about, they might be allergic and not know. There might be a consistency that they don't really like. There's a whole lot of things that when you are cooking for someone, it's best, if you want to impress them, to ask them what it is that they like.
What is your favorite dish? And I will make it for you.
Or what cuisine are you into? At least then you're getting like a feel for where at least in the ballpark you need to be. Because this one was way out there for her. And she's allowed to feel that way though. So after she decides that she doesn't want that, he gets very upset about it, calls her a picky eater to her face, and then basically tells her to get out. Now, in my opinion, that makes you the a-hole. Because she wasn't looking to leave after she told you that she didn't want to eat the dinner. She was just looking to work around it, find something that she could eat, and still enjoy the evening with you. You were not having that because it has to be your way. And this is why you've been trying to find someone and not had any luck. It has to be the both of you working towards something together that mutually you guys can agree on. That's a relationship. And I hope that people didn't just call you weird because of the decisions you did make. I hope that they gave you some good advice as to how you can navigate it in the future, because you're going to find out a lot of people aren't going to be wanting to be in a relationship that's one-sided. But you're definitely the a-hole, OP.
Well, the consensus is definitely the a-hole. They say her view on seafood and thinking that alligator seafood is wrong. A lot of commenters actually said they'd be more than willing to try or enjoy alligator, but she's allowed to have her preferences and she doesn't have to eat what he puts out.
Yep.
Especially if there was no communication with her on what was on the menu. And that's where everybody came back to. You never let her know what she was going to eat. You were trying to surprise her with something that was unique and exotic, and it didn't pan out, rather than rolling with the punches, because for her, it might be weird. For me, trying to eat alligator might be a weird thing. I would see it as exotic and unusual. A part of me would be afraid that I would get sick because it's not something my body is used to.
Sure.
And on a date, especially a third date, am I willing to go ahead and take that chance? Because if something does go wrong and let's say my body reacts badly, that date is over. Now, there was some advice given to our poster, and it was desperation is not attractive.
Yeah.
And your post and how you're dealing with all of this exudes all of that. Another piece I thought into is he actually says he's been, I guess, manipulated or controlled in previous relationships and he was just standing his ground. I think this is where we've come into a situation where, yes, he's been in bad relationships and it is good to be assertive, but it's not good to be aggressive. In every relationship, especially if you're dating and you're trying to get to know somebody, there needs to be compromises and understandings.
Very much understanding. You have to give that to people.
Yep. The fact that you never got that in a relationship should show that that's what you should look for, not what you should get rid of on your end because you weren't given that.
Yeah, that's where they talk about when people come into relationships with baggage. You end up doing the things that got done to you to the next person you pop into, and then you're ending that relationship before it even got started.
I know when it came to some of the commenters, they asked him about some dishes, about how he cooks. And one of them actually called him out saying, "You sound really pretentious." You just can't cook something that is just a little bit more on the norm when it comes to why does it have to be this?
It may just be how he thinks impressing someone should go.
Possibly.
Finding something very exotic. But I'm hoping through at least this constructive criticism that he got that he might understand that doing that early on is probably not a good idea.
Well, let's go ahead and I know our date didn't go so hot. We had to leave. So let's see what it's like in a established relationship again.
Oh, fun.
For our next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband I don't care what the doctor says? I, 38 female, have been married to my husband, 41 male, for 10 years. We have been together for 12 years. He told me today when he got home from work at 8 p.m. that he passed out at work. He told me the medics were called and now he has to go to the doctor to get blood work done. He did not call me and asked his coworkers not to call me because he didn't want me to worry. It really hurt my feelings. This comes after an accident that happened just after we started dating. He was involved in a serious explosion that caused first and second degree burns on the right side of his face and arm. He didn't call me until he was getting discharged from the hospital, as I was not listed as an emergency contact yet. I explained to him after that accident that I would have liked to have been there for support, to talk to the doctors, to ask questions, to learn aftercare and anything else that was important information. Well, after he told me about today's incident, he began asking what I think it could have been, what it could be, what the doctor might say, and so on. I told him, if you didn't care enough to let me know something was wrong when it was wrong, I don't care enough to care now. Am I the a-hole? Edit to add. After reading comments, I must add, he called his best friend while being assessed by medics. His coworkers wanted to call me, but he said no. Am I the a-hole?
Interesting. All right. So let's go on a journey. OP is 38 and her husband is 41.
Correct.
They are in a 12-year relationship so far, and they've been married for 10 of them.
Yes.
So they're well established. Apparently, there's a situation where her husband at work passes out, the ambulance gets called, and she's not notified and doesn't know any of this happens till 8 o'clock when he gets home that night.
Correct.
ROP explains that when they first started dating 12 years ago, that he had been in an accident at work again, where he was injured at work with first and second degree burns across his body. And she was not notified at that point either. Now that one is a little more understandable. They're in the beginning of the dating phase. I would understand why she wouldn't have been on the emergency contact list. But she lets him know at that moment in time, no matter what, she wants to be in on it. She's there for you. He says yes, confirms it, I believe. Now we fast forward 12 years. We're at this incident. He gets home and now she's being told that he had another accident at work where he passed out. The ambulance is there. And he proceeds to ask her what she think it might be. She tells him that if you didn't care to have me be there when it happened, then I don't care about what's happening now, essentially. My wonder with this story is, why wouldn't he have trusted her to be on the contact list? It's 12 years in. I get the first incident. I don't get why that happened now.
So, from what she said in the comments, he never went to the hospital. It sounded like just the medic showed up, he woke up, they suggested he go to the doctor, and therefore he made an appointment to the doctor.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if because he wasn't sent to the hospital, he just sort of downplayed it in his mind as maybe it was just exhaustion or dehydration or something along those lines.
So are you saying that it's because he just doesn't want to worry her over something he deems isn't important?
I mean, that's what she actually says that he says to his coworkers.
Okay.
Don't worry about calling my wife. I don't want her to really worry about this.
Which in turn starts her to be really worried and upset because she wasn't notified that something had happened to him.
Correct.
I guess everyone can see why that would be a problem,
A bit.
especially at 12 years in. Passing out just because you pass out isn't a good thing. There's something going on. So I think it would be probably wise for your wife to know that that just happened. You don't know what you're dealing with at that point. There are many different health problems that could have caused that situation to happen.
Now, to actually put it into another perspective, how do you know he's not in his right state of mind?
That's another thing. Do you know that when he passed out, did he not hit his head and get a concussion? So I can understand where the wife would be hurt in this, because it doesn't sound like he's looking at it rationally. He's going, don't bother. And I think a lot of us end up doing that. It's a problem. You could definitely be accused of just pushing through things.
Yes, I think it's more to make ourselves not worry and make it worse.
But by turn and not doing those things, you're making it worse. So in my mind, OP, you're allowed to have the feelings of hurt because I think as any partner in a relationship, being notified of something happening is important. And if you got left off that list, or if you found out that your partner explicitly told people around them to not contact you, I can see where that might hurt. But what you're not allowed to do is when he gets back and he's telling you about this, to make it about yourself. You don't know where he's at mentally. He could have been concussed when he passed out. He might not be in right of mind. There is better ways to go about it. So you are and are not the a-hole, in my opinion, just based off of you're allowed to have the feelings, but you're not allowed to do what you did at the end because you're making a problem that you guys don't even know the origins of yet, because there could be more. You're making that problem worse than it has to be.
Well, the consensus is she's definitely the a-hole. And the way that a lot of posters read it is her posts had a lot of me's in it. It had he got into an accident, but I wasn't informed. And now he has this accident, but I wasn't informed. And it's all about me because he's talking about, hey, what do you think the problems could be? And she's all like, well, you didn't tell me first, so why should it matter? So it comes across as being a very selfish post. Is she allowed to have those feelings? Oh, hands down. And that could have been talked through.
Yes.
Look, I know it was 12 years ago that this happened, but I told you that I would like to be informed about this. Going forward, please remember that. Would have been a much better way than saying, I don't care what the doctor says to you now. You didn't tell me before. Now, a lot of commenters asked, are you the type to get really panicky and make the situation worse? And she came out and she said, I'm a first responder. I am the one that stays calm between the two of us.
Interesting.
He's actually the one that gets anxiety issues when something goes askew.
Huh.
So it makes me wonder if he is supposed to be like that normally. And in this one instance, he's very calm. What is happening with him?
She's a first responder. Why would he not want her on the call?
There seems to be a lot of unanswered questions here.
Yes, I think so. Outside of maybe he just doesn't want to stress her when she's off the clock.
Possibly. I think the thing that I guess baffles me is she stayed in the comments when he passed out and the paramedics came. It was 2 p.m. He didn't tell her anything until 8 p.m. that evening. That's such a long time.
And that's where I said she's allowed to have the feelings of the hurt. That's 6 hours of no communication. Then depending on when he hops off work, we don't know what his shifts are. He should have probably had been home by X amount of time and nothing. We don't know how that situation played out that night or how she was built up to that point. If I showed up at 8 o'clock, but I'm supposed to be off work at 4:30 and you've heard nothing from me for the whole day, and I pop into the house and go, hey, something happened to me at work and I told them not to contact you because don't bother. How would you feel?
I would feel pretty upset.
You'd probably be very upset that there was no communication for 4 hours.
Where anything could have happened.
So,
but at the same time, if you were talking to me about what is going on now that's important. I would never shirk off.
Sure, but that's
trying
where
to
the
find
bad
out.
comes, that she is definitely the a-hole on that side because you don't know what's going on anymore. My worry would be if I was in that situation going, hey, look, we probably do need to go get you looked at because we might be dealing with other issues now. I just have questions for this one, though. She's a first responder. How is she not a part of the game plan?
Well, unfortunately, I don't have very many answers for you, so let's go to our next story instead.
Yeah.
Am I the a-hole for telling my husband's coworker to stop coddling him by bringing a lunch for him? I acknowledge that my husband works a physically intensive job and very long hours, typically 60 to 65 hours per week on a slow week. And I do appreciate how hard he works so I can be home for our kids after school and during their time off. With that out of the way, on to the issue. He says he rarely has time or energy to pack his own lunch for the day. Oftentimes, he falls asleep after getting home and doing the rest of his share of the housework and spending time with the kids. In the mornings, he takes care of the dogs and some smaller household things before going to work. He used to ask me to help him packing a lunch, and sometimes I would, but otherwise, I tell him he needs to manage his time better by multitasking or waking up earlier because he's a grown man and can pick his own lunch. I've noticed for the past several months, he doesn't always take his lunch bag with him. The other day, I got curious as to how much he's spending weekly on eating out. Checking our account, I saw that every week he takes out or transfers $45, but no unknown restaurant charges. Considering current prices, I asked him where he's eating that $45 is lasting him all week because I'd like to see what they got. That's when he told me he's not eating anywhere. He and a few of his coworkers give money to another coworker, and then his wife either packs breakfast/lunches for anyone pitching in or drops food off at the job site. I told him she's not their servant and he needs to knock it off. Saturday, when he was talking to that particular coworker about a job they'd been doing all week, I leaned close to the phone and told his coworker to stop giving him lunches and be better to his wife. I went on to tell them both all he was doing was coddling my husband and the others, and that they're adults. If they're that worried about lunchtime, they take care of it themselves instead of depending on someone else. We argued about it and still hadn't resolved the issue when he left for the job yesterday morning. Yesterday afternoon, I dropped the kids off with my parents and I was venting to them about it. Both of my parents told me the easiest solution would be to just do it myself or let him keep paying because it's one small thing to do to help make his job easier. Then reminded me about how they packed each other's lunches whenever one of them had to stay home with us while growing up. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband and his coworker to stop providing lunches for him?
What a spicy meatball. So let's get into this story of what it sounds like is a lot of jealousy and selfishness. So ROP doesn't say how old they are, but she is married and she has 4 kids. She tells us that her husband works 60 to 65 hours on a slow week.
Which is a lot for a physically intensive job.
She says that I guess at some point they were both helping make his lunches, and then somewhere along the line that stopped. She says he gets home and he has just enough time to do some of the chores that were his and spend time with the kids and then pass out. That is his daily rotation. Get home.
I can let you know the exact rotation.
Oh.
She actually puts down in a comment, it's not half the chores at all. Just pick up after himself, get the dishwasher running, take the trash and recyclables to the curb if he's home for it, and the dogs. I like the dogs, but not big dogs as pets. But he does, and he wanted 2 big dogs, so he takes care of them. I take care of them during the day and when he's gone for a few days, and I'm also doing things for his parents since he can't due to his work schedule. She actually says that during school time, she works part-time at an animal shelter.
Okay.
I believe she does get money because she actually says, on average, I put about $650 each paycheck into their family account and keep the rest as fun money for herself. It winds up becoming that she contributes about $11,000 to $12,000 in family funds. I think that's a bit high for part-time, but I could be wrong.
I mean, I guess it would depend on how much part-time is, happening where she's at. Again, it's different. I don't even know if we're talking about in America, so who knows? Different situations, different places. We just have to go on what they give us at that point.
Correct.
And so she fills out what exactly it is he does when he does have time off, which again is very little. If you're talking about 60 to 65 hours in a week on a slow week, there's not a whole lot of time, but it still sounds like he is trying to hold up some of it on his end. Now, he's told her that there just isn't enough time on some days for him to make lunch. And to this, she says, too bad. You're a grown man. You can make your own food. Now, we've had these conversations before. You are responsible for making your lunches. Now, in that same sentence for this story, you also are responsible for finding alternative solutions to the problem, because there's not just one. Your husband was able to find another solution. He's not doing it for free. This isn't coming from some random person. She says that he takes about $45 out of the bank every week to give to, I guess, a fund. All these coworkers all pitch in, and they have one coworker's wife make them meals.
Breakfasts and lunches.
And ROP assumes that this woman is basically being thrown into indentured servitude. You don't know how that agreement came along. If she's making money through making these meals for them.
I believe it's a side hustle on her part.
And that's great. But she's assuming that it's just, this is woman, she makes food for everyone, do it. In my mind, that's how it's reading anyway.
Correct. And that's how she's definitely portraying it.
Which sucks because, again, she doesn't know what they've agreed upon. He found a solution to a problem. Doesn't hurt anyone. And you're right. Maybe it did end up giving someone a little side hustle. Because I promise you, if that woman had a problem with making those things and preparing those things, it wouldn't be happening. It would not be happening.
You make your own meal. Keep your own money.
Yep. But he found a good solution. Doesn't bother his wife. And at $45 a week for breakfasts and lunches? Please. That's a deal. Especially with the economy today? Yes. So she proceeds to get very upset about this after she does some sleuthing. Because she does the math that I just said. There's no way $45 feeds someone for an entire week of lunch and breakfasts. She wonders why he's only taking that amount out. He explains to her exactly what's been going on. And I'm guessing a little bit of jealousy played into that. Just a little bit, because even I've heard this as I've gone through life. And I've only heard it from very petty people. Is that they hate when their partner is eating food from another person on a regular basis. This is what's happening here. She does not like that he found that solution because it was another woman. I feel anyway. Maybe I'm wrong about how I'm looking at that.
I can understand that perspective.
So on a phone call, I guess, that he's having with his coworker, she grabs the phone and I'm assuming yells into the phone.
She goes off on a tangent. Whew.
That he shouldn't be having someone else make his lunches and that coworker's wife needs to knock it off. What? Again, you're assuming a lot. You just berated him and his coworker about something you assumed was going on. That was nefarious, I believe.
Correct.
Pretty sure any rational person would be upset with that. You didn't bother to go and contact the woman and ask her about her feelings about this arrangement. You don't know any details about what they've done or how it may or may not be helping her. So in my opinion, OP, you are the a-hole. You need to take a step back and really appreciate that he found a solution.
Well, the consensus on Reddit is definitely the a-hole. A lot of people came out of the woodworks for this one. There were individuals that said, I have a husband who works in construction and the hours I couldn't work and do physically what they do. I would be more than ecstatic if somebody helped him with lunches if I couldn't. One woman said that I'm a stay-at-home mom with 2 kids, and I love making sure that my husband gets well fed because he also does intensive physical labor. A lot of people equated what she's doing to almost punishing him.
Sure.
But they don't know why. And
my question.
The one thing that I come back to is maybe our poster enjoys being in control of things to the point where because he didn't talk about it with her, now it's not okay.
Okay.
And it's honestly you're right, it's very petty. It's very selfish. I can't understand it, especially when she clearly says her parents say they've always helped each other out. You remember when you were young, we used to help each other make each other's lunches when we had to stay home with you. She's clearly had these experiences. So for her not to be understanding or, in my mind, loving, you're supposed to be loving your husband, and I don't feel it anywhere in this post at all. For me, all I hear is at the beginning, I get that he does work. I get that it's intense and he works long hours, but he should do more.
That's what I heard.
That's what I read. And it's baffling because if he's working 60 to 65 hours a week and is still trying to find time to do everything at home that he's got to do and to still spend time with the kids, if this is one little concession to make sure that he's got the time that he needs and you're accusing him that he doesn't have enough time management, you're essentially saying he doesn't deserve any time for himself.
He's also doing it at a deal. $45 a week to feed yourself breakfast and lunch? When you have 4 kids? We don't know how much they are or are not making as a household, so why wouldn't she have looked at that any other way?
The other thing that upset me about this post was the way that she assumed. Oh God, that word, assume. People are really bad with it. The way that she assumed that this other woman who is, in my mind, doing a side hustle.
Yeah.
I've been in those rough spots where we have to do side hustles. I didn't want to have to work a full-time job and clean houses. It wasn't fun for me to go into somebody else's bathroom and clean their toilet. But when you need that extra cash to pay your bills, you do what you got to do.
You do what you got to do.
So I don't know where she gets off saying that they're treating this other woman like a servant and berating someone else's husband for the work that this other woman is doing, because it's
almost
something
like
that
it's beneath her as a woman to do for men.
Because it's
not
beneath her, but not.
Yeah.
But that's the way it should be for every other woman. I think that's absolutely baffling.
I just feel like she probably should have at least got in contact with the woman before she went on this whole attack and really understood what it is that she's doing for her husband and the rest of his coworkers. I just don't understand where all that anger and hate came from.
I think for me, it stems back to how she talks is how I've had a lot of people talk to me back when I was doing my side hustle of cleaning houses. It wasn't a good feeling when someone would essentially tell me, I could never do that. That's too below me. But you take those types of comments and you let it roll off your back. So to have her essentially do that to another person when she's not even being the one to step up to help her husband when clearly he needs the help shows that she's just not very loving in my mind.
Or she's jaded from her responsibilities of being a stay-at-home for 4 kids and looking at it only like, well, you're complaining about doing this, but look at my life and how much I have to deal with. So there is no more understanding anymore.
That's such a sad way to live.
Some people get that way, though. Some people get that way towards their partners. We've seen that.
I guess you're right.
There is no more understanding anymore. It's like, you're complaining. Guess what? I can complain too, and we can see who can complain the most.
But see, he didn't complain.
Exactly.
He found a solution.
Exactly. That's what she's not looking at. It's more like, you get to suffer in this with me regardless. Well, hopefully she took the constructive criticism and was able to see where she needs to pull back a little bit and not ruin something that works for everyone in that situation. Her because she doesn't have to make the meals for him. Him because he gets to eat meals. And then for the coworker's wife, you're right. I'm telling you, there's probably some form of compensation that's happening through that.
Well, let's go ahead and leave this whole issue behind us. And let's go to our very last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to sign an exception for my son to skip school showers? My son is starting 6th grade next year. They do 1 week of health, 1 week of PE. It's expected that you shower after PE unless your parent signs an exception. That means you either take band or PE as the last class. Friday PE is like recess, so no showers. So it's 4 showers every other week. Jack has showered with friends and others at camp or at the local pool. I was going over his classes and what to expect. He was mortified at the thought of showering at school. I reminded him that he showered in public as recently as 2 weeks ago at a sleepaway camp. He said he didn't want to do it because his friends weren't going to do it. I explained that he can't run around and get all sweaty and expect to come to class smelly. Plus, he showers at school and he won't have to shower at home. He'll have more playtime. He said he wasn't going to be the only kid in his circle of friends to shower at school. So I spoke with other dads of his friends, and they all were firm on the shower thing. I told my son that every dad, 4 of them, said they weren't signing anything, and his friends were going to shower at school too, and his friends didn't give a fuck about it. Even his cousin is going to shower at school. I think he's at an age where he's against everything I want or suggest, not playing it, although he won't let me hug or kiss anymore. Am I the a-hole?
All right. So let's get into the facts of the story. OP is the dad. He has a son, either about 11 or 12, because he does say his son is going into the 6th grade. That's right around the time showers did start, especially if you played sports. He's saying that his son is asking for an exemption. For some people, I can definitely understand. It's really about your comfortability in the situation. I was exposed to that stuff early on in my life, showering communally because of sports.
And I was not.
So I never really had any worries about that in my life. But I can understand where, especially now, because, I mean, there's school systems that don't do that at all, period.
Yes, that's how the high schools that I went to school when I was younger was like.
For some places, that's not even a thing. So I know the dad and how he's looking at this is, I just don't want you walking around stinky. At the end of the day, that's it. He's definitely at a tug of war with his son now, because he says it at the end. He's like, I'm definitely thinking I'm at the age where he just doesn't want to agree with anything I have to say. Or is it more that, or is it that you're not taking in what he's telling you? Are you not having conversations with your son? Are you just talking at him, not talking with him? There's a difference there, and you have to understand it and learn that when you have those conversations with your kids, that they're real conversations. So he says it, his kid doesn't want to shower at school after PE, and even takes it a step further by getting in contact with all his son's friends' dads. And all of them tell him exactly the same thing. It's not up to them. They're going to take a shower. We're not signing exempt stuff. I'm guessing it probably is just at that age, you're uncomfortable with it and you don't want it. Because I can see where people would be like that. In my mind, he doesn't tell us what reasonings his son has. But there could be legitimate reasons. He says that his son was comfortable and was already doing public showers before in other events, camp and a couple other things. So why here? OP, you're definitely the a-hole because your son told you that he was uncomfortable with the situation. You didn't even open the door for it. You contacted his friends' dads and you all had a powwow and came to the conclusion that they're going to suck it up and deal with it. That's not a good way to go about any rational decision you make. You shouldn't be hive-minding your answers to your son.
Well, the consensus is definitely the a-hole. In fact, it is exactly as you said. You're not trying to take into consideration that your son is telling you that they are uncomfortable. And rather than try and ease his worries or whatever it is that he's going through, you're trying to force your own prerogative onto him. Now, there are a lot of commenters that came out of the woodwork saying, look, different generation spans of time between the 70s and 80s and so forth of people dealing with showering in front of each other. And even all the way up to current times where people will say they still have struggles. They don't like showering in front of other people. There was one commenter that said, look, back in the 70s when I was doing it, I wrapped a towel around myself and I showered with the towel on.
If that's how you have to do it, that's how you have to do it.
There was other commenters that said, I just said that I showered, but I actually didn't. There were other commenters that actually put down and said, look, people are cruel. And I've seen bullying in the showers. There was one story where they expressed that there was someone who was in their underwear and they snapped a picture and shared that picture with everyone as a bullying tactic. And the only thing the school district did was made the original person delete the picture. There was no other repercussions.
That's not going to do anything for all of it being shared across the internet.
Nope. So I can understand why it is that this young man is uncomfortable, because how do you know that he's not already aware or prepared regarding any form of bullying? And for him, he just doesn't want to be the next one.
It could be that situation. I'm just more upset that the door wasn't even open for the conversation.
Exactly.
You got to have that with a son or a daughter. You need to be the one to at least show them that it's okay to have a conversation first.
I think in the end, when it comes to children telling you something that seems a little weird, in this case, he showered in public before, but now he doesn't want to. There's got to be an underlying factor, and as a parent, you're really dropping the ball if you're not trying to find out why.
What was our last story?
That was our last story.
Again, interesting stories this week.
Thank you. I always try and bring us thought-provoking ones if I can.
Well, as our stories come to a close, don't forget, you've seen the world what you carry in your heart.
If you have enjoyed listening to us read and talk about today's stories, please rate, subscribe, and turn on notifications for new content. We are regularly posting on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We would love to hear your viewpoints in the comments section below.
As fall draws near, I can smell the bed bath in the air.
You mean the Bath and Body Works?
Yeah, there it is.
But yes, I am excited because there's a deal going on and I'm about to get some hand soaps at a discount from Bath and Body Works.
You can normally find Voice there at the fall time, winter time, any seasonal time. You'll most likely find Voice at one of those shops.
As long as there are heavy deals, yes.
And remember, if you post it, maybe we'll see it on the internet.